Ramble.
Between laundry cycles, emails, taking care of kids, taking care of Ned, there are so many things to do right now. And honestly, give yourself one less thing to worry about and let DoorDash take care of your next meal. We probably use DoorDash about 3 times a week. DoorDash is the app that brings you food that you're craving right now, right to your door. Ordering is easy. Open the DoorDash app, choose what you want to eat, and your food will be left safely outside your door with the new contactless delivery drop-off setting. With over 300,000 partners in the US, Puerto Rico, Canada, and Australia, you can support your local go-tos or choose from your favorite national restaurants like Chipotle, Wendy's, the Cheesecake Factory. One of our favorites is Shake Shack. Many of your local restaurants are still open for delivery. Just open the DoorDash app, select your favorite local restaurant, and your food will be left at your door. For a limited time, you guys can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code SITWITHUS. That's 25% off up to a $10 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code SITWITHUS. Don't forget that it's code SITWITHUS for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change, terms apply. Thank you to DoorDash, MeUndies, Faherty, and Usual Wines for sponsoring this episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of You Can Sit With Us. I'm one of your hosts, Becky. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Maggie.
Hello.
Ariel.
Hello.
And Rachel.
Hi.
And in today's episode, we're just going to dive right into probably one of the biggest things that's going on in most of our lives, which is the elections coming up. Voting. Shit's getting real.
It's huge.
And it's getting real fast.
I know.
It's here.
Yeah, who voted already?
I voted early.
Yay.
Yeah, we've all voted.
We've all voted.
Yay.
It's voting season.
It is voting season.
Well, in California, they sent us all mail-in ballots.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
That was huge.
was really big.
Was that your first time doing mail-in? Or have
we've
you done
actually
it before?
done mail-in since I'm going to be quite honest right now. I have never been to an in-person voting place.
Oh, wow. You've always done mail-in.
I've never, so I don't know what is behind those curtains. Those, like, you know, like people have these blinders up. I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
Like, do they take a piece of, do they take a Scantron and like, you know, do a little Scantron thing? Is that what it is?
So it's pretty much the same thing that you fill out at home, but it slides in some places that I've gone. It slides into a thing so your circle can be perfect. So it only like will box off the question that you're being asked.
Oh, fascinating.
I actually never, until recently, slid it into the thing. I just lined it up and stressed out and like took a really long time voting. And at one point my husband was like, how did you take so long to vote? And I was like, I had to get the circles perfect. He was like, did you put it in? I was like, in what?
In where?
Wait, so it's like an automated circle maker?
It's not automated. It's like, how do you describe it? It's like you insert your paper into a plastic, almost like clipboard kind of thing.
Yeah, and then
But
the
it
questions
flips.
line up and it flips over, and then it only shows you what line you're voting on. You have a little circle stamp.
Yeah.
Cool.
Except for in the primaries in California, mine was digital.
Do you remember the first time you voted?
I've always done mail-in as well. I'm like Team Rachel with it now.
Forever?
Yeah, just because I think the first time I voted was in 2016, I believe. Yeah.
That was the first time you voted?
I know.
You are so young.
You're so
I know.
young, Maggie.
You
Oh
are
my
so
gosh.
young.
I'm the baby of the...
First time I voted was 1979.
30 years ago, we had to walk to the polls in the snow.
Uphill.
What was your first election, Ariel?
My first election was the first election that Obama was in 2008. Does that sound right? 2008? Yeah. 2008. That was that was the first time I voted.
Your first election?
That was actually my same first election. Was 2008. Yeah, I was one of the people that is now being discussed in propositions. I was 17 during the primaries, and I turned 18 in May, and then I was able to vote for Obama in
Good
2008.
time.
Yeah, in college. So I actually got to vote for Obama twice. But what I didn't know, because I didn't get to vote in the primaries, and I don't know if my parents told me about it or not, or I maybe just didn't listen. I went in just like Obama, 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 and then I get there and it's a whole list.
Oh, yeah.
Like the phrase vote down the ballot meant nothing to me at the time. And I had no idea. I knew like one or two people in Chicago that I could vote for. But other than that, I actually left almost my whole ballot blank. And I felt so bad.
What did you imagine? Do you think you just hand somebody like a red card or a blue card?
I thought it was just like one piece of paper. And it was like you fill it out and then you vote for the president. And I think I knew like maybe mayor or something like that. But I had no idea that there were so many other things and so many propositions. So
Yeah.
bet your ass the 4 years later, I was ready. I was
Came prepared.
I had my like pre-filled out one. I was like, I got this.
I studied.
I Googled.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do wonder if it would be better that way. You know, if like more people would vote, if it wasn't this, you know, sort of onerous thing where you had to go in and spend, you know, 15 minutes like poring over all these different propositions and things like that. If it was just like A or B. Those are
You
your
want to have
choices.
voting like every week so you can get a new proposition next week. You just mail it back in.
Yeah.
That would make, I think that would make people
They
crazy.
send you an email and you're like, yes.
I pick this one.
You know what surprised me this year on the ballot was how many people are still in the presidential race, technically.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
Kanye West?
No.
Kanye.
I've never even heard of some of these people.
Yeah.
They're in?
You know, that actually makes me think, why wasn't Kanye West involved in the debates?
Because he's not registered.
He's not actually a registered.
No, he's like a write-in. And if you write in Kanye,
You're
voting.
voting.
Yeah.
fuck you. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all the cameras.
Gotcha.
Do not write in Kanye. That is messed up.
Yeah.
That
There's
is
just too much at stake this year
Yeah.
to be throwing your vote away.
Yeah.
Did you guys find any resources helpful online in all those propositions that Ariel was talking about? It did seem like there were a lot of big, important propositions and a lot of like important races, at least here in Los Angeles. There was.
For sure.
This year I utilized the ACLU and the New York Times voter guides. And I didn't use that before. I didn't know that was my first election that I voted in. I actually just used what they sent you in the mail, but I've learned that there's so many more other resources, incredible resources that you can utilize and have multiple pages open while you're filling out your ballot at home.
We really like Ballotpedia. That was the first time we used it this year. Keith is he's probably like more deep divey into a lot of the propositions than I was. And he found that really helpful because he likes to look at what he said that helped me look at things was look at who is proposing it, who's paying for it, and who's opposed to it.
Right, because sometimes with the language, you can't tell. Like they'll use a word that you in theory agree with.
Yeah.
Stem cell research. I agree with that idea. But then when you really dive into the language, you have to sort of figure out what the ballot or what the proposition is getting at. And what they're really getting at is stem cell research good or bad, available or not? It's like, who's paying for it? Only California? No, that's messed up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's tricky. The propositions can be tricky.
I think the hardest one this year was the Uber and Lyft one.
Absolutely.
I just did not. We kept going back and forth looking at just like what people said online, like people who work for Uber and Lyft. And then we were looking at the Ballotpedia. We were looking at, you know, everything Black Lives Matter put out, their propositions that they supported or didn't support. And it was just like, it was a lot. Rachel, I think you touched on it earlier. But the propositions get so confusing and it seems like they're purposefully making it confusing, especially when more conservative propositions come up. To me, it seems like they want to make it difficult for you to vote. And as we're seeing, you know, now just in the United States, they're trying to make it physically difficult for people to vote as well. My brother and sister-in-law live in Houston, Texas, which has now gone down to one drop off.
Wow.
Polling.
Unreal. My parents vote in Houston as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to vote in person because they were just worried about. They usually vote by mail and have it sent to wherever they are. But they wanted to vote in person, and it was lines 3 hours long.
Yeah.
I mean, just it in some places it is just impossible to vote,
especially like working class, because those are the people that
Have the least
can't take time off. Like when I worked minimum wage, we didn't get election day off. You had to go early in the morning before your shift, or
Election day would be a federal holiday if the federal government wanted you to vote. Easy. The end.
Yeah, that's that statement in itself means so much.
Yeah.
It should be a national holiday. It is our right to vote. And we should be able to, like, they should make it as humanly possible to do that.
Yeah.
In the last presidential election, I think a third of the country didn't vote. And it just shows how many barriers there are.
You're right, Maggie. 43% of eligible voters did not vote in the presidential election, which is 100 million people.
That's almost half.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Vote. Go vote.
There's too much on the ballot this year.
Yeah.
Right.
What's on the ballot for you?
I want someone who represents all the needs of Americans, minorities included. I want a president that acknowledges science and doesn't deny or doesn't downplay the effects of the coronavirus. I want a president who doesn't uplift white supremacy.
It seems like
the least we could ask.
Yeah, it seems like the bare minimum you could ask of the highest office in the United States.
Seriously. For me, it's okay. So I talked a little bit about the debates, and I found it very, very difficult to watch the debates, the presidential debates specifically, just because I felt like why am I watching this if I'm just going to be lied to? Like it honestly feels like that is the one thing that we should be able to expect from someone in the highest office, is that we will, like, yes, sometimes it's in like the best interest of national security to not tell the American public certain things. I understand that. But blatant lies or like misinformation is not what we deserve.
It's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. It is. It absolutely is. It goes beyond frustrating for me. It turns into this like this like hot anger in my chest, where I just think to myself, like, I know that this is misinformation, but there are people who don't. You guys have all heard about MeUndies. We have talked about MeUndies before. We're all wearing MeUndies right now, let me tell you. But this year, they have started a pledge for 2020 and beyond that is called MeUndies Gives. It's an initiative that supports those who have systemic barriers to their self-expression. By shopping MeUndies, you support causes such as LGBTQ plus communities, mental health and well-being, and women's rights. I am actually currently wearing MeUndies right now, a little TMI. Right now I'm wearing one of MeUndies' ridiculous prints. I'm pretty sure it's Halloween themed. MeUndies has a great offer for our listeners. For any first-time purchasers, you can get 15% off and free shipping. MeUndies also has their problem-free philosophy. If you're not satisfied with any product for any reason, they'll refund or exchange. No caveats, no questions. To get your 15% off of your first order and free shipping, go to MeUndies.com/sitwithus. That's MeUndies.com/sitwithus.
And people are consuming different media. Even if you see it and it's so crystal clear to you, unfortunately, I urge everyone to be very critical of the media that they're consuming and making sure that it's fact checked. And because it's true, there's different, if you watch The Social Dilemma or what's the other one on Netflix, the media hack.
Yeah, Cambridge Analytica one. I
Yeah.
remember the name
Like
of it.
people are just consuming art in different pockets of the internet, and it may not be as crystal clear to another person. And I think that has led to just this huge political divide.
Right.
And it's horrifying. Like I consider myself a progressive, and I don't think that should be looked down upon. And unfortunately, I see a lot of misinformation on the internet. It's super hard. How should I start? It's super hard to talk about just like the political divide in this country. And I remember growing up, both my parents are immigrants, and I was always told, like, please don't talk about politics, Maggie, at the table with your immediate family, with family, friends. Like, and I think we've never really openly talked about it, but I think it was a way for my parents to be liked by immediate family members and close friends. Because I moved out of the town that I grew up in, and I'm realizing now that it's a uber conservative town.
You're from OC.
Yeah, from Orange County. And it wasn't how it is now growing up, and like people could have political conversations without it being a screaming match. And I've had tough conversations with people, but it's really hard to talk about. Yeah. It really bums me out. Yeah.
I think the things we're divided on are really big, and they're very like at people's cores. Like we're not disagreeing on small issues. We're disagreeing on racism, homophobia, the environment and our planet, borders and immigration and families staying together. We're disagreeing about things that like come from our core. So it's hard to disagree.
I was personally very shocked in 2016. I moved from Illinois to California. Or not 2016, 2016.
Yeah.
Was that when?
2016.
Yeah, we've lived 1,000 lives
Is that
this
when
year.
came into office? But yeah, I went from a blue state to a blue state, and I grew up around very like-minded people. I have one or two family members that maybe believe in QAnon.
Woof.
Just not good. Not good at all. But I went from a group of people that really thought Hillary was going to win. I had absolutely no doubt in my mind. I went to work that day. I had my I voted sticker.
I think,
We were ready. We were like, there is no way. This man literally just said, grab him by the pussy a week ago.
Yeah.
A presidential nominee said pussy.
Yeah.
Come on. I was like, there's no way. And it was just such a devastating loss. And then to find out that like it's something like 45% of white women voted for Trump.
But I do wonder to myself, like, what is it about Trump that people are voting for?
I think he kind of speaks to the lowest common denominator sometimes. He speaks to people that feel looked down on and spoken down to. And he ignites that part of them that says science is keeping you down, and liberals are the reason that you have problems. You know, it's things have been done to you. Yeah. And so I think he validates that in them. And I think there are just really racist people, and there are people that do have some really horrific thoughts, and he gave them permission to say those things. Yeah. I think it's, you know, in the past, whether or not they've thought those things, they at least kept it in their heads. I think now he's sort of given this voice to a group of emboldened people to just live with such vitriol and anger. It's a lot of anger.
And if your single news source is Fox News, you're getting a totally different side of everything. Yeah. And you're not hearing a lot of things, and what you are hearing is completely false.
Yeah.
And remember, Hillary won the popular vote. And what the Electoral College is how a president actually wins. And so some states have more power than other states. And the number of votes Trump won by in 2016 was 80,000 total across 3 different battleground states. On the way into this morning, I heard on NPR that people were early voting in California, 40,000 a day. That's 2 days of early voting was the entire number of people, 80,000 people. That's not even a small town. That's nothing. That's chump change in the election. That's what he won by.
Yeah.
Dang.
And 100 million eligible voters didn't vote? That's ludicrous.
If you think about all that has happened in the last 4 years and just the policies that have been put into place or taken away, just by those 80,000 people. It's kind of incomprehensible.
It's incomprehensible. They're coming for your birth control. They're coming for your right to an abortion. They're coming for your gay marriage. They're coming for your right to immigrate. They're coming for our planet. Like, it's really, it is dire and important, and not voting's not okay.
Or prohibiting people from voting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making it harder for people to vote is absolutely unacceptable.
Voter intimidation.
Yes. And did you know if you skip 2 elections, they will unregister you to vote? If you don't vote in 2 sequential presidential elections, they'll just deregister you, and you might not know it.
Wow.
You get no notification.
Yeah. So always check. When you go to the DMV, a lot of them will let you register to vote. My biggest suggestion is register to vote when you get your driver's license renewed, and register to be an organ donor if that's something you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
They let you do it all right at the beginning. So just do it, get it out of the way. I think the Electoral College is really reflective of the big problems that we have in this country, where it is states, especially ones that are more conservative, are getting more votes than states that have more liberal or progressive views. And we're seeing that happen right now in real time on the Supreme Court with the confirmation of
Coney Barrett. Yeah.
Amy Terrible Lady. But
Yeah, today.
where the actual minority in ideology is now the majority ruling. So they're not speaking for the majority of the people that live in the United States.
Yeah.
And it's
And if
crazy.
I think that now that she's getting confirmed today, I think we're going to have a Supreme Court that's been this. The last time we had this conservative of a Supreme Court was like back in the 1930s.
Wow.
Which is bone chilling.
To me, it completely negates the usefulness of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, like, they are here to take on the nation's biggest issues and weigh them not as Republicans or Democrats or, you know, conservative versus liberal. Like, yes, they come to the court with certain views. Absolutely. Who wouldn't? But, you know, their job as lifetime appointees is to look at these issues in terms of not their, you know, not how they feel about it or what's in their head. It's to look at, you know, what the Constitution says and like how they interpret like certain texts, you know, and it has become something so completely different.
Yeah.
It's not about like almost this like scholarly thing anymore, where the justices will, you know, look at something and discuss it. It's more about what their party is saying.
I think the crazy part is too, like, presidential campaigns start like a year or two before the actual campaign starts. Like, how is it that I know back in 2016, Obama tried to appoint a Supreme Justice within 60 days or a couple months of the next election, and it got blocked because the Republican.
It was like 200 days.
It was a long time.
It was so long.
Yeah.
It was like early in the year of an election year.
Yeah.
It was January or February, and they were like,
and they
no
blocked it.
way.
Yeah, because I mean,
But now,
I feel like it's
fast
not fair
forward.
to both sides, conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats, to rush somebody in 39 days before an election and put them in a lifetime position.
Position.
Which maybe that's something we should be talking about too. Maybe
Yes.
people shouldn't have lifetime positions. We don't need 90-year-old white men deciding the semantics of the Constitution that wasn't even written for all people.
No.
We the people didn't include anyone in this room except for Miles.
That's so true.
It's crazy to rush something that could impact so many people.
With everything that's going on, that is the most frightening thing for me. Is Amy Coney Barrett getting put on the Supreme Court and having a Supreme Court that is wildly conservative, because there are things that we take for granted right now that I take for granted, that I think are going to be taken away. I think that like abortion rights, I think that like trans rights and gay marriage, these are all things that I felt like were just sort of a sign of the nation moving forward. And I truly feel like it's going to start to move backwards, and I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm so scared of what's going to happen. And I feel like there's nothing I can do. I feel sad and helpless,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Is that something that you guys have to deal with as well? Or is it, or do you kind of feel like there's a fire in your butt and you're like, let's do something about this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get fired up.
Yeah.
I'm lit. I'm lit on telling people
I love that you get
to
fired
vote
up.
and to my beauty tips have gone way down on Instagram and my
You can talk
cartoons
about beauty
why you need to vote.
And you can talk about politics too.
yeah, you can do all of them.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that
But
you get fired up. I so much
get so
enjoy your
fired up.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So fired up. I just think, I don't know. I think I'm very idealistic, but also very negative. So it's a weird contrast to be like, it should be good, but everything is bad. It's like the constant battle of my mind.
Yeah.
And then it's like looking at it from different, I think, perspectives too, that, I'm white, female. That's a very privileged voting position to be in. I've never had a difficult time voting. I've never not been able to get myself to a polling place. I've never felt like a lot of my issues have been ignored or not in the majority, So I think it's trying to step back and look at it from the most marginalized groups and seeing who's really, truly affected by some of these policies and some of these things that you're voting for. And that's why it's important to vote down the ballot.
Yeah.
Don't be like me the first time, vote down the ballot, because your votes are for the attorney general. Your votes are for the sheriffs. Your votes are for district attorney. They're for
And that takes some
comptroller.
work.
I don't really know what a comptroller does,
Right.
but you vote for it.
And people who
Money.
don't think that the president has a lot of power, he appoints the cabinet, which is 15 departments. Like, do you have a home? Do you have children? Do you like nature? The Department of Agriculture, the Department of Urban Planning,
Department of Education. It would
Yeah.
be nice if we had a head of the Department of Education that actually believed in education.
One unexpected side effect of this year, it feels like fashion is kind of over. I don't know about you, but all I wear is sweatpants these days. So, I mean, how are we supposed to know what to shop for? What I do is I don't buy for what I want to wear right now. I buy for forever. And that's why Faherty is so great, is because they make high quality, comfortable clothing for life. They're sustainably minded, designing products with a thoughtful focus on fabric. And let me tell you, the fabric is so cozy. I was on the Faherty website just the other day and I ordered myself 2 pairs of the coziest sweatpants that I have ever felt in my life. I seriously feel like I'm still wearing the same thing, but now I am wearing the best sweatpants in the world. Buying forever is the smartest way to shop, and now is the smartest time to do it. Right now, you can get 25% off your next Faherty purchase when you go to fahertybrand.com/sitwithus. That's Faherty, FAHERTY brand.com/sitwithus for 25% off. fahertybrand.com/sitwithus.
Yeah.
Or
The pandemic response team.
Yes.
yeah.
Trump fired.
The FBI, the CIA, the Supreme Court.
It would be nice to get back into the Paris climate change, perhaps.
Yes.
Or Paris Climate Accord. It would be kind of nice to not be one of like 3 nations that
Right.
doesn't fucking believe the world's on fire.
that are like, no thanks, we're good.
Yeah, it's insane to me that we have a president that can't admit that climate change is real. Or as Mike Pence says, climate change is happening. It is changing the climate.
Mike Pence, who proposed a law that every woman had to throw a full-out paid expenses funeral for every miscarriage she had. Did you guys know that this was a law he put forth?
No.
Yes. for every miscarriage, he wanted a funeral, including expenses for that.
What a piece of shit.
Stop it.
Like,
Oh,
it's
he's
the
trying
death
to
of a child.
yeah, he's trying to set a
make it seem
precedent.
like an embryo is a functioning
As a
life,
human,
as a
yeah.
human with rights.
That is so bizarre. I'm just thinking to myself, as somebody who has had a miscarriage, like there are so many just logistical barriers to
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
what are you burying? What is
That was everyone's question.
and also, you know, this coming from, I feel like the same person who would like deny that a miscarriage ever happened. You know, like I feel as if there are women who have to hide the fact that they've had miscarriages in a community where it's so like such a hot button topic. You know, because they do blame themselves, which that's unreal.
Yeah.
There's women cannot blame themselves for miscarriages. There's so many things that we already can blame ourselves for, but you know, the things that your body does going through pregnancy is not one of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Would have, I mean, it eventually got turned down, but it was in March.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It said, force women to seek funerary services for a fetus, whether she had had an abortion or a miscarriage, and no matter how far along the pregnancy was.
You know what's sad? It's like, yes, that is a surprising thing that you just told us, but it's not like shocking for Mike Pence because
Right.
he's also the man that believes you can pray and or shock the gay away. He passed laws in Indiana for gay conversion therapy that had electroshock.
As one
He
of the treatments.
basically believes in torturing kids so that they will deny their most basic human parts of themselves.
What is this, like the 1930s?
Yes.
I think he also can't be alone with women. I think that's like he has a thing, right? Where he can't be alone in a room with a woman, which I would never want to be alone in a room with that man.
No.
Unless it was to like punch him in the face.
Here's the thing, though, guys. Biden can be elected. That's the thing we have to remember.
Yes.
Yeah. I do have hope that we'll have a leader that is respected on a world stage. And I have confidence in Kamala that she'll represent all of Americans. And they have, like, if you go to his website and read about his policies and his plans, I think a lot of people, especially fiscally conservative Americans, are worried that they're going to be taxed heavily if Joe Biden is elected and they're going to lose all this money. But that is farther from the truth. Most of his plan is going after the wealthy and not most of Americans, not middle class Americans. So I think that it's important that we educate ourselves on what's at stake and what the plans are.
One of the things I really like about Biden, he was not my pick in the primary. You know, I was team Bernie. I love Elizabeth Warren. I definitely align more with those values. But as a part of a country that is so divided, I felt like Biden is very moderate and can speak to both sides, and that maybe after this presidency, we just need someone who can sort of bring together all people who have like decency and common sense to a more moderate presidency who doesn't really lean so far one way or the other. That might be really healthy for us.
Yeah.
And I think he has gone through a lot of things that a lot of Americans have gone through, so he can empathize with a lot. You know, he was a widower when he was very young, and he also lost a child very early in that same accident. He lost Bo later in life, and Hunter struggled with addiction. Like, these are all things that like American families do go through and deal with. So especially to see like Trump like shit on Hunter for having an addiction and like,
oh my God,
I hope that spoke to the people that thought there was any shred of decency left in Trump, because everyone knows someone who struggled with addiction, who has lost a child, who's lost a parent. Like,
Right.
you can, feel those things. So vote for someone who's human decency and just it gives the bare minimum
Yes.
of human decency.
and not just to, I mean, the bare minimum of human decency to women.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge point for me in the first time that Trump was elected, was just like, how are women supposed to respect themselves if our president doesn't even respect us? You know, like our voice, our bodies. You know,
he's lowered the bar. He's lowered the bar for everyone in politics, I think, because we're willing to take whatever, right? Like, yeah, I was on the same boat with you. Joe Biden was not my first choice, but sure as shit, I circled Biden Harris.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that we've talked about politicians that make us frustrated? Is there like a politician or anyone in the government that you're really excited about that makes you look forward to the future?
I think that we can all agree we love AOC, and I haven't been this excited about a candidate in a really long time, and I hope that one day she becomes president because she is amazing. I know that it wasn't expected for her to win.
I first heard about her on the when she was first running.
Yeah.
She was just all over the internet. She had a really good like grassroots digital campaign.
Yeah.
And she's certainly wildly more progressive than most of the politicians that we've seen. So I love that she fights for, I know Green New Deal can sometimes be a dirty word to some people, but I think she came up with a really good plan, and she sticks to what she believes. And I think her getting elected and hopefully reelected shows that young people do care.
Yes.
Young people do care about the environment. They care about human rights. They care about reproductive rights. They care about queer rights. I think she's, a really awesome person to look up to and be excited about.
And that they're capable. You know, that young people are capable of taking on the systems of government that are in place right now.
Yeah.
You know, she feels very fresh. Yeah. She feels very, it feels like a ray of hope almost.
Her being on the ballot, in addition to Trump winning in 2016, I hope that has fueled much more women wanting to run for office and be involved in politics. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And young people. Yeah. I feel like she got some flack for being young, but we have some really old people in our Congress and Senate. It's just,
why do all of our politicians have to be so old? You know?
Yeah.
Like, is it because people feel that that sort of wisdom to be a part of the government comes from age? Because I certainly don't think that's true.
No. I don't think that's true either.
I don't think anyone in this room believes that's true.
No. I mean, what would our government be like if
we had fresh new ideas?
If we had some fresh new ideas.
Wild.
Yeah. So guys, don't only just go vote. Go fucking run for politics. If you want to run for government,
do it.
She showed that you can do it.
Yeah.
You can be a fresh out of college bartender. And you are qualified.
I didn't know if you guys tuned in, but AOC had one of the biggest Get Out the Vote rallies on Twitch, where she played Among Us.
The biggest rally ever.
Yeah.
And she has an Animal Crossing.
She does?
Right? I know the Biden campaign, Miles.
Where does she find the time?
Biden campaign has the Animal House.
That's so cute.
Wait, Mags, what was the number on that of people watching?
I think it was 435,000, according to Miles.
I don't know that. Our podcast research pixie, Miles.
Twitch guru as well.
Twitch guru.
You guys know I love a good glass of wine. Truly is a big part of who I am, and I miss it so much right now. And we are sponsored right now by Usual Wines, which are wines for the modern drinker. Each bottle is 6.3 ounces, which is an Ariel size pour, or about a glass and a half of wine. So no more pouring wine down the sink when you don't want to finish the bottle. Not that I've ever done that. Because of the single serve format and the bottle design, Usual is always fresh. No more flat bubbly or stale rosé. Even better, their wines are low carb and have 0 grams of sugar. Usual has a red blend, a rosé, and a sparkling white wine called Brut. They also have a limited production Brut rosé just for the summer. I'm a big rosé drinker in the summer, and that's kind of come over into fall time. I don't know. There's just something about the the flavor of like, I don't know, it's a little bit different than a crisp white wine. It's like a crisp rosé wine. I like to drink pink, and Usual Wine has the perfect rosé for me because it comes in a single serve option. Go to check out their website at usualwines.com and use our discount code SITWITHUS for $8 off your first order and try your first glass on us. That's usualwines.com, code SITWITHUS for $8 off your first order. Cheers.
I got really excited this year about donating to different campaigns, doing more than just the presidential campaigns. Just everything that was going on in the country, even if it's a small donation. We just started setting up some monthly donations. That made me excited for the future. If you're looking for anything exciting, donate. We love Equal Justice Initiative and the Trevor Project.
I was upset that I couldn't vote for Nithya because she's not in my district, but she's been endorsed by Bernie Sanders and has a pretty progressive agenda.
And she's been getting some attack ads against her.
I know.
Yeah.
That were, I think she addressed them on social media and was like, that is far from the truth.
She was getting attacked for, they said she took donations from like large corporations, but she had the receipts to show that when those donations came in, they were immediately returned. Once they were flagged or whatever it was, because she said she wouldn't take, it was either she wouldn't take X amount of money or she wouldn't take it from certain corporations.
Something interesting, the way they like drew out her district in LA, we are 1 block away, and it's like, I don't know if it has to do with gerrymandering and stuff.
It is
but
gerrymandering.
Like, yeah.
It was because we vote for Nithya. And we live far away. Not far away, but we live about 30 minutes away from each other.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we could be represented
differently.
So differently.
Yeah.
By 1 block.
It's literally if I lived across the street, I could vote for her.
Yeah. Hers
and
it like
loops
through the city. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Would you guys ever consider running for public office?
Becky. Becky, get fired up.
I would be a press secretary.
I don't mean it as a joke. I mean it as like, is that something that you know, going back to AOC, like, is it something that young people don't even consider? You know, there's, you know, I'm thinking about children's books where it's like, you know, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be president of the United States. Like, I actually don't find myself encouraging my son to think about public office, you know? And I'm thinking about that right now and thinking to myself, why is that not something that I want for him? And there's a lot of feelings that come up. I mean, he is going to be a like white male, so that is one of them. Wes, you can do you can do whatever you want.
Wes in the White
you're gonna
House.
be the best the best adult ever. But yeah, I mean, maybe we could talk about that a little bit. Just like what encourages young people to feel as if they have this civic duty.
Yeah. I think it's like compassion for other people, right? I didn't really feel as political as I am until I became a nurse and have worked with different sorts of families from socioeconomic backgrounds and income levels. So I think that really fired me up a lot. And like, why is it that like why is it that the person on the side of the freeway selling flowers to hustle for his family, like why he works harder than I do? My dad worked 2 jobs when he was coming here. Like, why do I deserve a better life than my father? You know what I mean?
It's an important reminder too that if you are someone who considers yourself not political, that is a massive privilege.
Oh yeah.
It means that you have never been affected by a policy change. It means you just didn't grow up with having your life affected in that way, which is an incredibly privileged way to grow up.
Yeah.
Not voting is not a choice.
Well, not voting is a vote for Trump. Make no mistake. That's what that is.
Unless you cannot vote, unless there's something, voter suppression is very real. So
Absolutely.
if your vote is suppressed and you cannot,
Yeah.
if there are things that are stopping you from voting, if the systems in place are working against you,
Yeah.
That's not a vote for Trump. A vote for Trump is choosing to actively not vote.
Earlier, I was talking about how paralyzing it is, just feeling like you can't do anything. But that actually is one of the things that I feel very comfortable doing is helping other people vote, driving people to the polls, taking someone's shift at work so that they can spend 3 hours in line, or, getting out the vote, helping people to get registered to vote.
A lot of people are volunteering to be poll workers. Or if this wasn't the time of coronavirus, I saw in the last election, people would have like vats of fruit snacks and like snacks for people waiting in line and water bottles and stuff. But I know that things are a little different now. So
yeah.
But there are organizations doing stuff like bringing marching bands to the polls.
So cool.
Pizzas.
There
was the
being
pizza
delivered
party
to the polls. It, like text us where there's a long polling line and we'll deliver free pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, something as small as an umbrella for somebody who's waiting in line in the rain or something like that. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah. Also, don't forget, if you are in line to vote, it is your right to vote that day. So if they tell you you have to go home, if they tell you you cannot come in, that's
false.
Voter suppression. That is false. You are allowed to go in and cast your vote if you have been waiting in line. So just make sure you do that. And another important thing to remember with coronavirus right now, especially, highly recommend watching John Oliver's episode on it because he is much funnier and more eloquent than I am. But
I'm surprised. I think you're very eloquent.
I don't know. John's pretty funny. But he had a great episode, sort of, that eased a little bit of my anxiety about November 3rd. We will not know the president on November 3rd.
Yeah.
It's going to be it's going to be election week. It could be election month in certain states and certain counties. They can't even count mail-in ballots until the day of the election. And there's just simply not enough people to work the polls, to count. In Houston, they have the one drop-off box. I mean, there's a lot that's going to impede the speed. And there's probably also going to be a lot of misinformation coming out in that period of time. I think that is purposefully going to try and scare people or intimidate people But I think just staying really vigilant, checking all your sources when you hear something online before you share it, share more than like Twitter started doing. Did you read this article? When you go to retweet an article, did you read more than just the headline? Like read more, see who wrote it, see what news source it came from, and talk to your friends. Talk to your friends, see where they're at. Encourage them to vote, discuss different issues.
Yeah. That's one thing about voting that we touched on a little bit in the beginning, just with, like Maggie growing up in the OC, that a lot of people don't talk about it. And when they do talk about it, there is intimidation to go along with what your family is doing or what your friends are doing. But going back to, really think about those core issues that are like what you want.
Like if you're ever having a difficult conversation with someone who completely opposes your fundamental beliefs, I think just coming with a calm attitude and lots of information and facts, I think it really helps.
Do you guys have any experience, talking to somebody who did have a completely different point of view?
I grew up in a pretty conservative town. And then just people at work, like I come into contact with so many different political beliefs. Like I'll have one family in one room listening to Rachel Maddow in one room, and then I'll go into the next room and it's just Fox News. So it's really hard. So I know at work I kind of have to, I'll just come from a place of, I'll just talk about facts.
Right.
Because if there were ever to be a dispute or anything, my manager has blatantly told me please don't. So I kind of have to bite my tongue.
Sure.
And I've had harder conversations with patients' family that don't have the same beliefs of mine, but at the same time, I have to acknowledge that I'm in a professional setting.
But you had a family tell you that COVID wasn't real.
Yeah. And I had come back that week.
From having it.
Stop.
The mother never had her mask on anytime I'd come into the room. which, I mean, it puts me at risk and it puts the other patients I'm taking care of that day at risk. And then as soon as the physician walked in to check in on the patient, I mean, the patient's daughter, so respectful, had her mask on. I know she was mortified by the things that were coming out of her mother's mouth. But as soon as the physician came in, the mom was like, oh, let me get my mask. It was just like,
It was like
Disrespectful.
a respect. Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
the politics of
Yeah.
physicians versus nurses, and how she clearly, like there was like a respect issue there.
yeah. So I talked to my manager that day and she's like, oh, I'll just make sure next time she comes in that she has her mask on. But I was stunned at just the lack of respect for staff. It seems like her daughter has very opposing viewpoints than her mother does. And I have a lot of hope for the youth in this country. And I hope that we continue to progress in the right direction and that she changes her mom.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The youth of today, there's a lot to look forward to with them. I think they're making really smart, informed decisions, and they're willing to have the tough conversations. So that's really good. But guys, we are now at the end of the podcast. That is our sort of pre-election podcast. We really, really encourage you to go out and vote. If you haven't, talk to your friends and family about voting. Discuss the issues with your friends and family. There are a lot of resources out there for you that are just a click away.
Yeah.
But our next episode that's actually going to come out on Election Day is going to be a very lax episode. It's going to be very relaxing. So just know.
Bear with us. I'm so sorry. We're
Today
so
was
proud.
a little heavier, but next week we're going to try and give you some tips for self-care so you can think about relaxing on that day. But we'll see you guys next week. Yeah. And have a good week.
Thank your nurses. Tip your servers.
Wear your mask.
Be a
wash
good
your
human.
hands.
Wear your mask. Wash your hands.
Be anti-racist.
Yes.
Do all of them.
The 2020 anthem.
Yes. See you
man.
next time.
Bye.
Bye.